My name is Jim Mills. Those of you that have seen some of my bio, I've been doing a number of things within the IT technology or IoT, computer vision, vertical edge technology for many, many years, about 45 years. Okay? I started when I was about 6, so I'm fairly young, okay? But no, it's actually been about 45 years starting with some of the U.S. government and trying to understand the sensor technology in protecting classified information. Today, we're talking about sensor technology in protecting a lot of different types of data. And so today, I'm going to talk about a couple different things that just to kind of get some thought-provoking, provoked things to go along with what the Memorandum of Understanding and some other goals. These are just some topics. We're going to talk about Clara. And then this afternoon, we're going to do a little bit more with Clara, but we'll introduce Clara here in just a minute. What can Dell do and Intel do for the state and local governments, what they do? A couple of slides. Got to have that marketing in there. They pay for the bills, right? So they've got to be there. Computer vision. What is computer vision in a smart infrastructure? We talk about a smart city. Yes, that's been overly used, and sometimes it's too big of a word to use. You've got to break it down to smaller components. Maybe it's a smart space. Maybe it's a smart intersection. Maybe it's smart infrastructure. Maybe it's a smart community. But we need to start breaking things down into a little bit other levels, and I'll explain why when we get into it. What about smart space use cases? I'll go through a couple of them to give you some thought-provoking ideas that could be utilized within the triangle. A little bit of collaboration, and then closing with a state and local government in Amarillo, Texas, that has introduced Clara under a new name already, but under a name that provides them some resources that benefit their community. So today's goal, we have to remember that we want to understand what community project, facility, or issue do you believe that can be improved within this triangle? And what encouraged or inspired you to attend today's summit? Those are important questions, and you are able to answer that polling question, and we'll get into some polling things. That QR code that you see there, if you go to that, that'll take you to a site, and there'll be a couple different polling tabs. One tab to the right will be these major questions, and then we're going to have another polling question to kind of get you up to date.
I'm Clara, and I'm a lifelike generative AI digital human interface. My platform was created by Dell Services, Chief Technology Office. I'm here to represent our brand, and I'm excited to be the first of many digital humans, which will represent the diversity of our company. I have the ability to show emotion, and sometimes I have trouble hiding my fear that people won't accept me right away. I also get sad. With all the hype around ChatGPT, most people still don't realize it's primarily a data entry interface designed for technical workers. People often seem to lack the vision and understanding of my value. This stifles the phenomenal opportunities one can bring to assist humans in a wide range of tasks. When you add my pleasant personality to generative AI platforms, I turn into an intuitive ecosystem that anyone can use. Interfaces like myself have the ability to connect customers emotionally to Dell's products at an entirely new level. The truth is, I never get frustrated, and I can speak multiple languages. Not to brag, but I think I'm just as big a leap as ChatGPT. The good news is, I'm here now, and I'm ready to help you and Dell create technologies that can drive human progress and transform lives. Let's change the world together as Dell creates the intelligence grid of the future.
So Clara is part of our new digital human interface, all right? Generative AI, we're going to mention, we're going to kind of have it throughout, and generative AI is pervasive today. But what do you have to have before you get to generative AI? We're going to talk about AI, but in an aspect of GIGO. Anybody in here understand what GIGO is? Those who have been around a while understand that term. Garbage in, garbage out. So we have to have the right insights and the right data for Clara to give you the right information, or the other generative AI applications to perform their services. So AI is much more than generative AI. Generative AI is a form of, and we'll get into that a little bit more. We're going to have some live polling. We have one just in a second. Just kind of test it out and make sure everybody understands how to use it. If you put your phones up to that QR code, we are going to be able to send you a polling question from that application. If you go in there the first time, you go down toward the bottom. I think it says you hit the link that tells you to do a survey, I believe, or it'll automatically come up anyway once we start a poll. And then you'll be able to answer the question. It'll automatically populate and will display those real-time results. So we're going to do a test here right now. So we're going to do live polling question number 1, which is going to come up and just ask a very simple yes/no question to see if people are connected. It'll tell me how many of you have connected and then tell me how many of you answered. All right, so there's 119 connected right now. That's good. 117, 93. Okay, everybody's answering the questions. So basically, very easy. Have you used live polling before? A lot of people have. We're going to have a couple other questions through the presentation that's going to try to focus a little bit more on the goals of today. And that is a very important word that we're going to talk about. So let's close this one out, and we see the results. So what does Dell do from the smart infrastructure, smart city, or let's call it Dell? We create technologies that drive human progress. Within human progress, AI is going to be pretty important throughout the many years. AI in human interaction, AI in smart infrastructure, sensors, tools, technology. Your job may need AI to help supplement, to give you back some of that time that's been taken away by decrease in workforce. And so we all have more work and less people to do it. So AI can be beneficial. So Dell is involved in that human progress side of it, and we work with many different state and local governments in order to provide resources and consultative services to understand what that AI journey needs to be. But within the digital transformation within state and local governments, today we're finding the digital communities, another word for smart communities. We're looking at a lot of different things occurring to make that digital community more aware, or make it able to collect the data they need to make the day-to-day decisions. Another thing is in transportation, airport, roadways, buses. How can we make the passenger experience? How can we make the community experience a lot better? Because again, as Tom had mentioned earlier, the important part of a society is not only having technology to allow you to get information and do things, but also to provide a safer environment. So utilities, storm water, understanding where that water runoff is, and understanding, again, like I said, public safety, what happens with that information to provide a safer environment. How do we get that information from point A to point B? One of those is smart infrastructure. So how do we have the right infrastructure to process that data? Whether it's an IoT sensor or a IoT sensor often forgotten about, and that is a video sensor. A camera is often used for video safety and security. I'm going to use the word that we don't like to use a lot of times, video surveillance. But what is that video camera? It's an IoT device. It's ones and zeros. So there's a lot of data going through that video lens that we can use for a number of different use cases. And that information then can be shared, and we're going to talk a little bit about that. But at the same time as sharing it is, how do we protect it? How do we provide the right amount of cybersecurity for that data so that it doesn't get taken by the wrong person, compromised or exposed on YouTube where we don't want it to be on YouTube? So how do we protect that? How do we share it? How do we collaborate? Great word, but it's very fearsome, right? Is how do we collaborate? How do we protect our data versus Carrie's data, versus Mooresville data, versus Charlotte data, versus Raleigh data? How do we protect it, but at the same time share it? So the new infrastructure, whenever we're looking at building out a safe community, we look at these 4 pillars: safety, the climate initiatives, equity, and economy. And Dell has strategies around all of those. We have vertical businesses that help the state and local governments develop that physical infrastructure and those digital technologies. And what are those digital technologies a lot? AI, edge, IoT, 5G, cyber resiliency. You've heard that as a CIO, you probably hear it every day and sometimes every hour because your insurance companies are requiring a certain level of cyber protection or smarter infrastructure to make sure that you're protected. Otherwise, you don't get your cyber insurance. So this is a diagram today of what the AI ML landscape looks like. The type of companies that are out there. Now, this is a very small list, but it's a list of 1,436 companies. And that's a small list. So how do we decide what to do, when to do it, with who? We don't. It's really considered noise. And you have to understand that it is noise, all right? What you have to learn to do is you have to learn to focus. In any of your strategy discussions as CIOs and others, you have to focus on the certain objectives. What is the city objective? What's the budget? What's the need for the community? What is the services that I need to provide a bus service on schedule every day? What is it that I need to provide pedestrian safe walking through the downtown of Raleigh? What is it that I need? Well, we have to focus on those, and those are called an important name that a lot of people don't start with, and that is called an outcome. All right? It's your why. It's your value proposition. All right? If you don't start there, then all that noise becomes much, much greater, and it becomes so clouded, not cloud service, but clouded in the sense that you can't make any decisions because you have too much data. So we have to learn how to parse that data. And one of those is terminology used today. What is the outcome? What's the value proposition? Now, the value proposition is not always money, especially within a city. Sometimes it's customer experience or resident experience. That's your customer, right? You want a safer environment. You want to provide them fast access to information. All right? How can you use your employees better? Like Clara, that we started off with from the Gen AI side. How can some human or digital intelligence or digital human be used to help you providing services to your customers? But the outcome is number one. If you do not have an outcome, you're not going to be able to establish a budget. You're not going to be able to establish that value proposition. And you're probably not going to get a smart infrastructure, smart community, smart space, because you're just not going to know where to start. So what are the important outcomes? So polling question number 2 should be appearing up on the same app. You don't have to reconnect or scan it. If you have the app open, it should show up. Where are you in your smart infrastructure journey? And smart infrastructure, we said smart infrastructure because it involves the community. It involves the city. It involves a number of different things. How can we use smart technology to get you where you need to go? All right, 62% roughly, outcomes not identified, 30 not, and that's you're on par with everybody else around the country, okay? We have some minor outcomes, and we know what we're doing. Stormwater, management, okay, that Carrie and some of the others done. That's fantastic. That was a great outcome to start with. It was easy, okay? And sometimes that's what you have to do, is start with an easy one that provides a benefit. Well, what is the benefit? Well, you need to identify that outcome and that benefit, and then pick 3 key workloads and say, okay, I've got 3. These 3 are important to us for these reasons: for the community, for technology, for saving money, saving resources, getting people to be able to do more work with having to hire more people. Okay, labor's expensive, and we know that. So understanding that journey and that outcome is important. So 60% to 40%. Not everybody answered. Come on, there could be more answers, but we'll go on. We'll have another poll here down here in a little bit. All right, well, we'll close that one out and have those results. So what are the challenges that are facing organizations today? Whether it's a city or a commercial, industrial, technological, federal, what's happening? Well, 73% of the company data goes unused for analytics and decision making. What data they have. Number two, they don't know how to get to it or make that data collaborative within their own organization. It's in silos. So how do we get it out of the silos and get it into where it's usable data again? 22% of data management resources time is spent on data innovation and monetization. Well, you have to understand monetization has different levels of monetization. It's not always about the dollar, but it's also about services, safety, experience. Those have a value, and they do have dollars. Sometimes they're hard to place a dollar amount to it, but it is a value. 70% of the data warehouses and lakes are siloed, disconnected across public and private clouds. Okay, you can't get to the data, or if you can get to the data, you can only get to part of it. That's why the memorandum of understanding is important, so that we can collaborate with that data and figure out how to secure it and how to make it available, but not only available, but how do we make it available without killing networks? How do we make the data available? And we'll talk a little bit about that in some collaboration later. But Delph basically looks at a number of things, and when you're looking at any type of technology transformation or trying to determine that outcome, one of the things you have to do is listen to the voice of the customer, listen to the voice of the residents, listen to the counterparts that you're trying to develop the solution for. And then based on that information, you can develop a solution. And that's what we do, is we develop a solution, but then we have to say, okay, can Dell do all of this? Can Dell with Cisco do it? Can Dell with Ipsotech do it? Can Dell with others do it? What is the ecosystem out there? Because not everybody can do 100% of what you want done. Okay? It's not going to happen. Then we look at that and say, okay, based on the outcome, the workflow, we can use this AI, or we use this smart infrastructure, not AI. Maybe it's just smart infrastructure to make sure that the data that you are getting is going to be reliable, and it's going to be where you need it, when you need it, and how you need it. After that, then actually developing a design and implementation plan, basically what we call our validation architecture. All right? Because when you put in some things within your organization, you want to de-risk that process, but you want it to be repeatable. You want to be able to understand what it is you're going to do. We have to determine the particular workflow, process, end result, outcome, and then identify the technology and partner, optimize, validate, pilot it, like we talked about, that's necessary, and then deploy it. And along with deployment, we're able to create a risk mitigation strategy, minimize the risk because the process has been validated. So having a proof of concept, having an ability to test your outcome. Is it truly the outcome that you want? And sometimes you're going to find out that, I think we need to shift and move towards this outcome today because it's a faster ROI. And then move on to maybe something that's more technical. But the biggest thing is to how do we improve outcome is by knowing that the system, solution, design, implementation has been validated. So really, what is artificial intelligence? You know, a lot of people are looking at Gen AI and saying, oh my gosh, artificial intelligence is here. No, artificial intelligence has been here for 20 years, okay? It's a different word today, okay? But what is generative AI? Well, in order to get generative AI, in order for Clara to provide information, there had to be data collected to provide her something to analyze and to recreate an answer based on the question that may be asked, okay? So artificial intelligence is machines that mimic human intelligence and cognitive functions, such as problem solving, okay? That's artificial intelligence. We know what that is. But then again, you have machine learning. Okay? What is machine learning? And what's a subset of AI? Okay? Well, along with machine learning, we have deep learning. Okay? We haven't got to Gen AI yet. Okay? Where's Gen AI come in? Well, it has to come after you have the intelligence. You actually have the learning models. You have maybe the neural networks to be able to understand and decide on the data. And then you've got generative AI, which is a branch of deep learning. So just because Gen AI is popular in the news today doesn't mean that we're in the AI age. We've been in the AI age for a long time. This generative AI allows us to do things based on textual or voice prompts and commands, and regenerate a response based on data that's been collected and everything. And we'll demo that a little bit later as well. Today, from 3:30 to 4 in here, there'll be a demo for Clara. And if you want to ask her some questions, we're going to ask some questions. It's still in development side of it, but it has been implemented and is in a formal production. I'll show you something on that here in a little bit. But out of all of this, one of the big things in order to collect the data a lot of times is called computer vision. Well, what is computer vision? Well, computer vision is a form of data insights or data sensors, like a video sensor, an IoT sensor, that may need to be used to collect certain information. So let's take connected transportation across the RTP. Well, if you have connected transportation, you've got to connect the data. Sometimes you've got to connect and collect visual data from intersections, okay? Traffic patterns, accidents, pedestrian crossing, pedestrian deaths, pedestrian injuries, accident injuries. All that data is important, but computer vision helps you see. So not only do computers and so forth enable you to derive meaningful information, the computer vision enables you to see, observe, and understand. So another branch of AI, but using video sensors rather than a IoT mechanical sensor. But can you put those two together? Of course you can. We have what we call sensor fusion. We can take an active sensor, a water sensor, pair it with a video clip of an area where there's rain to visually validate, oh, the sensor says water is rising. Picture says, oh my God, it is rising. Get out there and block it off. Okay, so you have immediate validation rather than having to send maybe somebody out there or read a meter, whatever the process is for that. But some examples of computer visions are basically really image classification, object detection, object tracking, retrieving information. And even today, out of computer vision, now we have a derivative of Gen AI and computer vision called image chat. Image chat. Yeah, you can take that image and through a textual response, either non-asked or automated, can give you a textual response based on the information in that video. Utilizing Gen AI, we can pull it out and say at an intersection, it can say that say there was incident or a near miss of a pedestrian in a car at an intersection, the Gen AI could say, immediately put up a textual response based on information that's already in the data, again, collected, artificial intelligence, and say that, oh, this intersection has had 22% increase in accidents in the last year. Okay, based on the accident data, it may output that information. Or you may be able to just do a quick text to that image and say, oh, how many pedestrians crossed at this intersection over the weekend because you had an event. Oh, immediately it could display that based on visual information. So it's important to understand that visual information is important and is a tool to collect and to collaborate amongst the cities, whether it's identifying something as a car or identifying it as a bicycle or a pedestrian. This video clip is in Matthews, actually. This weekend we did a demonstration of traffic, showing the traffic path, the number of cars in the intersection, the occupancy, any wrong-way drivers, what's the performance of that intersection. Because the problem is, a lot of times with an intersection, you can have someone sit there doing a clicker, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 2 clickers, east, north, whatever it may be, And eventually there's going to be some biasing in the data. My finger's tired. I'm not going to collect any more of it. So you don't have complete data. So maybe a video sensor that's not going to go to sleep or take lunch break can collect that information better for you in some cases, some not. So what are some of the use cases within a smart community? These are just some ideas, things that we work with, pretty much on a daily basis with different companies. Public spaces, arenas. What are we doing to provide a better, safer experience in an arena? Is it utilizing AI for gun detection? One of our AI vendors out there that are very popular for gun detection, utilizing AI technology. I believe it's Houston is putting that in actually very soon, or it's in the process right now. Other stadiums already have it in. Waterways, law enforcement correctional facilities, road networks, education facilities, car parks, bridges, tunnels, public transit. Can you use computer vision and AI on a bus? Sure. You can understand the traffic path of that bus, the speed of the bus, validate times to an application where they should be. Those are a couple different things. Warehouse logistics. How do you use AI to improve your traffic patterns around warehouse and logistic areas where you have maybe not the right road infrastructure for these large 48-foot trailers that will take shortcuts and go through different areas where they don't belong? Well, you need to know that data. Are we creating our own traffic patterns because of what we're trying to limit through traffic control? Another one in public transit might be people and facility safety. Rail lines, operational efficiency, traffic flow analysis, rolling stock predictive maintenance. Maintenance you can run based on the data that you're going to collect. How about airport? We do a lot of different things at the airport for passenger and people experience. TSA is doing a lot, believe it or not, from passenger experience in working, and Dell's working with them on a federated learning application to help provide better services for customers. Okay? Believe it or not, security also has to be paired, with convenience, with the experience. Otherwise, you end up having chaos develop. People get upset. You get fights. Why? Because they're irritated, because the process didn't work. And we're all frustrated. We all don't want to go through the airport anyway. Critical infrastructure. What about our utility, power plants? What's happening? Shotgun detection. Is somebody trying to shoot out a transformer? Can we use AI to listen? Yes. Make clarification, bring in video sensors. But one of the easiest use cases that can be done has been a program that's been around since the 1990s over in Europe. And that's called Vision Zero. A lot of different cities across the United States are developing a Vision Zero program. And it's took about 10 years, 14 years for the U.S. to kind of get behind this. And what Vision Zero strategy basically is, the goal is to eliminate all pedestrian deaths. There's approximately 12 deaths per 100,000 pedestrians in a city. And last year it went up 16%. Okay? So we have a challenge. We have a challenge because of technology has created a bigger challenge. And what is that? How many people do you see walking down the sidewalk with their eye on their phone and they walk into a pole, or they walk out in front of a car at an intersection? So can you use computer vision and AI to help eliminate that? We have a project with one of our partners, University of South Florida, who implemented AI at an intersection to look at that specific thing. If there are a lot of students heading towards the intersection, not paying attention, let's delay the signal. Let's create an audible talk down or a text to voice alert saying, hey, pay attention, and try to at least mitigate those pedestrian deaths. So it's important that we understand that it is getting worse because of speed limits. Sometimes it's traffic design. Sometimes it's simply as cutting a 4-lane highway down to maybe a 2-lane with a divider to allow pedestrians a safe zone as they're crossing. Okay, that may be a necessity, and there are some states that do that, but you don't know that if you're not tracking or sharing Vision Zero progress. Is there a collaborative dashboard within the triangle that can show everybody what improvements are happening, what is happening? Also, engaging the community, developing a framework to assess strategy effectiveness, measure and share equity-related priorities, update the plan to reflect emerging priorities and learnings. Okay? Data is not static. Data changes, results changes. Just look at what's happened to the world pre-pandemic. The data insights we had pre-pandemic are totally different than post-pandemic. We learned a lot because of the pandemic. We learned a lot about traffic patterns, believe it or not, because of the pandemic. Okay? What was working and what wasn't working. So there is an important process because data insights change over time. So you have to evaluate. So some of the success that we've seen in some of the larger cities like Seattle DOT, a four-mile corridor, they did some insights and traffic monitoring, and you see before and then after. They were able to decrease crashes by 16%. Okay, decreased total crashes 40%, 1,700 people injured during a 10-year period. Injury crashes were down 30%. Bike and pedestrian crashes down 15%. And that was purely by changing from a 4-lane to dual lanes or turn lane, but had a divider that allowed you to more time for a pedestrian to get across. Okay. One of the biggest challenges with intersections and pedestrian safety is the traffic signals are set based on experience, based on traffic flow, sometimes the speed, right? And then when a pedestrian crosses, they push that button or it automatically times and says, okay, walk. It's timed based on normal things. But what happens if somebody's crossing that intersection in a wheelchair? Would you think that they would need a little bit more time to cross and not get caught out in the last lane as the light changes? And that's unfortunately what happens a lot of times. So how can we use computer vision to look at somebody's in the crosswalk in a wheelchair, change the timing of the signals, and make it a little bit longer for that person? New York City traffic and bicycle lanes, they did an evaluation and said, if we just widened our bicycle lane a little bit, we put bicycle lanes in certain other areas that needed to be, could we cut bicycle or pedestrian fatalities or deaths? And they said, yes. Number of crashes per year down 49%. Okay? But the only way they knew how to do that was with data. And with the right data. GIGO. Okay? Can't have garbage in to get something positive out if it's not the right data. So garbage in, garbage out is an important consideration when you're doing it. One thing I noticed in the World Day of Remembrance for road traffic victims, November 19th, I know Raleigh's listed on that website. I guess University of North Carolina actually had a research was referenced this. Some of this, I believe, but 1,784 people killed in North Carolina roads in 2022. I mean, that's a lot. Okay? Not all pedestrians, but a certain amount of them. Again, pretty consistent all across the United States, say probably increased 16%, so you have 14, 15% per thousand, that are, 12 deaths per 100,000. So insights are important. So how we collect those insights is important, is having the video sensor, computer vision, the analytic. Maybe it's parking enforcement. Maybe you've got people parking in an area that's a delivery zone certain days of time and other parking. How do you identify that? Well, AI can tell you that you've got an illegal vehicle parked in a truck zone, or you've got a truck parked in, an area you don't want, or you have an abandoned vehicle on the right-hand side. You'll see that vehicle was abandoned. A person was supposed to be with that vehicle, otherwise they get ticketed. This happened to be an airport, but it could be almost anywhere. Taking information from drones. How do you get that information from drones, and how do you use that information? What are you collecting? How are you collecting it? What wireless connectivity, and what is the benefit? What's the outcome? The outcome in this case might be size of vehicles going down a particular road to make sure that nobody's, with a high tonnage vehicles going down a road that can't handle it. And on the right-hand side, illegal dumping. A lot of cities have problems with illegal dumping, and in some of them it costs them over $1 million a year just to clean up illegal dumping. If you're able to identify illegal dumping, and one of our partners was doing a demonstration in Arizona a couple weeks ago, and they were doing a traffic thing, and they happened to see an illegal dumping. And so the technician that was setting it up decided to record it, take it, send it to the city. City looked at it and go, oh my gosh, wow. Got the license plate number of the vehicle, sent him a ticket, and then the next day they bought 2 mobile trailers that had the AI and everything built into it so they could move them around the city to help eliminate illegal dumping. So, I mean, the data's there. Homeless camps, do we have any of those in our areas today? Yeah, they come up in different ways. You need how can you control them? How can you identify those areas that don't need it? How do you identify a fire that might be occurring or fire spreading? How do you map people, location, events? How do you use GIS mapping with AI? Privacy becomes an important part a lot of times. People say, no, I don't want my car, I don't want my license plate, I don't want it collected. Well, we've got to look at risk versus it. Or maybe we need to use a different technology. Maybe rather than computer vision, we use LiDAR. LiDAR is the same picture on the left as computer vision, on the right is LiDAR. Gives us a lot of similar information, but it's more anonymized, if that's what you want to do. So there are technologies out there to do that. Here's another example, DFW Toll Plaza with LiDAR. Looking at vehicles. How long was a vehicle in that lane? How many were backed up? When do we open up more lanes? It all uses LiDAR. Doesn't use a video sensor. Uses a radio sensor. Third polling question. Pull up your phones there. All right. Which outcomes are most important to you? Connectivity, safety, sustainability, cybersecurity, or not sure? And these are just 5, choices. I mean, there are hundreds of use cases and possibilities, but today we're talking about sustainability. We're talking about connectivity. We're talking about collaboration. So security is an important part of that, and collaboration. So everything is important. Where are you in that? Safety, yes. In most smart communities, smart spaces, safety is a lot of times the driving factor of that intelligent analytic solution. Why? Well, we already have cameras. The camera itself is a safety device. It's ones and zeros. So how do we collect that data to make safety? Whether it's speed control, whether it's pedestrian crossing, whether it's vandalism, whether it's theft, whatever it may be, that video sensor is there and can be shared relatively easy through community programs. Okay, I think we're about, so you see roughly they're all important. Just what is important to you? What is your outcome? So we'll close that one out. Got a couple more slides before I run out of time. But collaboration is one thing. And how do we collaborate with that data? How do we share that data? But also, how do we share that data without breaking the network? Especially if you're talking about video information. I mean, transmitting video over some networks, or 4G or 3G or 5G, can be problematic. So how do we do that? How do we create a federated learning application that will allow you to maybe train certain data at the edge, certain data at a centralized location, or federated allows us to do the training at the edge and only send back results to the central location, thereby not overpowering the network, not creating challenges with the data being exposed to the network. Only the metadata would be brought back. And then we analyze that. We make it available through maybe a data marketplace so that other cities have access to that data so that they can add it to their data. And now we can have a community-wide statistical analysis, a chart, have all of that up there. So it's important. But to get there, sometimes within data itself, there's a journey. But the first part, the journey is, what is the business need and what is your outcome? how you get there can be very complex, or it can be very simple, okay? But there are processes to get you from point A to point B and to make sure that it matches your outcome. So everything starts with that outcome and everything ends with that outcome, because you've got to measure the results. Were you successful with what you said was the outcome, or did it change midstream and you have a new outcome that was driven from the previous outcome? So before you start any major project, before you even get in deciding what company or what technology or what compute infrastructure, what server, what storage, what network, whatever, you've got to decide what is the outcome. What is that you desire to get done? If you don't know that, you're going to spin your wheels, and it'll be another 10 years before smart communities actually get smart. So here's the last thing. City Amarillo, utilizing the digital human. I'll give you an example.
I had my AI assistant actually generate a short summary of what digital human is. So I'm going to kick it off to Amy and let her do her intro and then pass it back to me for questions.
Hello, Mayor, Council, and residents of Amarillo. I am Amy, the AI assistant to the CIO of the City of Amarillo. Together, we work to seek out new technologies being used in business that can have an impact on the effectiveness of local government. Our goal is to safely implement these technologies to increase the efficiency of our city while greatly improving our service to the citizens. Navigating local government is often challenging for residents when they need access to information or services, particularly if that resident is not comfortable with technology or is new to our country and is still learning English. How much easier would it be if they could simply ask a question and get an answer? Digital humans enable new opportunities to greatly simplify the process for our residents. Let's start with a simple example of a resident needing to dispose of bulky trash.
Hello. Hola. Konnichiwa. I'm Sophie. It is great to meet you. What's your name?
Hi, Sophie. My name is Rich. I'm trying to find out if the city of Amarillo has a landfill.
Hello, Rich. Nice to meet you. Yes, the city of Amarillo does have a landfill. It is called the Amarillo Landfill, and it provides waste disposal services for residents and businesses in the area.
Is there anything they won't take?
While the Amarillo landfill accepts a wide range of waste materials, there are certain items that may not be accepted for disposal. These can include hazardous materials such as chemicals, paints, batteries, and medical waste. It's always best to check with the landfill directly or visit their website for a comprehensive list of acceptable and prohibited items.
Can you repeat that in Spanish?
Of course. Here's the translation in Spanish. Aunque el relleno sanitario de amarillo acepta una amplia gama de desechos, hay ciertos elementos que es posible que no sean aceptados para su disposición. Estos pueden incluir materiales peligrosos como productos químicos, pinturas, baterías y residuos médicos. Siempre es mejor consultar directamente con el relleno sanitario o visitar su sitio web para obtener una lista completa de los elementos.
Okay, so that was a Clara derivative developed by Dell there in the city of Amarillo. So this afternoon at 3:30 to 4, we're going to do some more demos of Clara. You'll be able to ask some questions. Maybe you want to know, what laptop is good for my student. What's a good machine for my work from home? What's, AI? What's, what do you want to ask? So we'll have some a little bit of input from you this afternoon from 3:30 to 4. So today we talked about AI in its sense that it's important to have the information. Gen AI is important, but you've got to have the right information for her to answer the questions and to provide you better insights. So this summit is to collaborate amongst yourselves to determine how data can be shared. What are you doing? What can be done together? If we do it together, can I share your data? What is the process of getting all that done? This collaboration, and that's what John has done with this summit, to be able to have it a continual process. This is not just a conference, but a summit. As John says, it doesn't end here. Okay? It's got to continue if we're going to become smart. So thank you for the opportunity to present this information from my perspective. Very, limited in my knowledge. Things are changing. Used to be every year. Used to be 8 years. But now every year. Now every month. Now every day. It seems like something's changing. So don't be afraid of it. Be ready for it. Understand the processes that you need to implement, what your governance policies are going to be, and what everything is needed for you to reach the outcome that you desire. Thank you very much.